In April 1938, thanks to the artistry and creativity of Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, Action Comics #1 was released, and the world was introduced to Superman. And he couldn't have come at a better time. Steeped in global economic turmoil and with the rise of authoritarian and fascist regimes, these two Jewish children of immigrants created a character that not only was the first modern superhero, but was also a glimmer of hope to so many around the world. Unlike the other popular comic heroes of the day, Superman didn't just fight villains and monsters, but took on greedy landlords, misogynists, xenophobes, and corrupt politicians. He was, as Shuster and Siegel described, the champion of the oppressed. Over the next few decades, the Man of Steel would explode in popularity, inspiring others both on and off the page. He even took on the literal Ku Klux Klan in the radio show Adventures of Superman. Thanks to the intel from activist Stetson Kennedy, Superman exposed the Klan's code words, rituals, and bigotry before a national audience, leading to a steep decline in the group's reputation as well as membership. This also showed the world the profound impact such a character could have. Sadly, when Shuster and Siegel originally created Superman, they were pressured into relinquishing the copyright to DC, a common practice still used today by larger corporations and studios to avoid properly compensating artists. The pair would spend the rest of their lives fighting DC and Warner Brothers to get proper compensation and credit for their creation. Then, with the rise of other heroes during the Silver Age of comics, and without the original creators, Superman became less the champion of the oppressed and more of a big blue boxing glove protecting people from disaster. Despite this sanitation of Superman, there have always been artists that understood that truth, justice, and hope are the essence to this character. And now, it seems like we're getting an artist that understands not only what the original Superman stood for, but also the profound power characters like Superman and art in general can have. And I couldn't be more excited. Alright, let's get on with it. Hello there and welcome to this episode of BFG Reviews. As always, I want to thank everyone who's watched my previous videos, remind everyone to like, comment, and subscribe, and give an extra special thanks to anyone who's already liked, commented, or subscribed. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Now, on to the review, which is...
Ready?
Let's do it, Cronkite.
Superman.
Miss Lane.
In effect, you illegally entered a country.
This is how you're gonna be?
I'm not the one being interviewed, Superman. I would question myself in the same situation and consider the consequences.
People were going to die!
2025's Superman. Written and directed by James Gunn and starring David Cornsweet, Rachel Brosnahan, Nicholas Hoult, Maria Gabriela de Faria, Sarah Sempiao, Skylar Gisondo, Anthony Carrigan, Edie Gathegi, Isabel Merced, and Nathan Fillion. Superman follows the titular superhero immediately after losing his first battle, and his crisis in confidence after receiving intense public scrutiny over his intervention in international affairs. Superman has to reconcile whether or not he's doing good as nefarious forces work to undermine his every action. So, I'll just say it. I adore this movie. Not only was it colorful, fun, and action-packed, but it was also deeply moving, heartbreaking, and inspiringly beautiful. For the first time in decades, we have a big screen Superman that actually resembles the kind, gentle, and human Big Blue Boy Scout. I am also in awe of the messages behind the film, about what it means to be human, what it means to have hope, and the strength it takes to place that hope in others. Before I go too deep and start rambling about everything I loved about this film, I want to quickly talk about some negatives. Because, like Superman, this film isn't perfect. I only have a couple critiques, and honestly, they are kind of nitpicky. The first is that the dialogue can be a bit overly expository at times. It wasn't often, but there were a couple moments where I thought, that was already explained, or they didn't need to explain it. We got it. My second quick critique is about the music. Now, overall, the music was phenomenal. David Fleming and John Murphy did an amazing job with the score. However, I do think there was a slight over-reliance on the John Williams music. Don't get me wrong, I love that score. And I'm not even sure you can do much better at capturing the last son of Krypton in music. But I was really curious to hear a newer theme. Also, as expected for a James Gunn film, the needle drops were amazing. I've been bopping to 5 Years Time and Punk Rocker ever since leaving the theater. And my last critique, I'm actually going to save it till the end, which means I can move on to gushing about this film, because I have not had such an enjoyable time in the theater in years. Pedro Pascal truly said it best.
I cried through the entire thing. It made me want to be a better man.
To start, this, more than any other comic book film, felt the most like picking up a random comic and getting enthralled by the story. The film opens and with a few lines of text, sets up the world, recent events, and the titular hero himself, which is exactly how almost every comic book today opens. Even without the opening text, this world feels established and lived in. And again, like picking up a random comic issue, not everything has an explanation. A character can just have a kaiju, or a secret base, or a pocket dimension. No need to explain why or how they have it, they just do. The overall look of this film also just feels like a comic. Everything from the costumes to the sets to the cinematography felt like it leapt right off the page. There were multiple excellent uses of match cuts, which always invokes comic art for me. I think it's because match cuts make you focus on how the two shots connect to each other, similar to comic panels on the page. The action also invokes those comic vibes and was simply incredible. It especially excelled at showcasing the wide variety of powers Superman and the other characters had. I really enjoyed seeing Superman take on several different types of enemies, showing how differently he fights based on who or what he's fighting. The kaiju scene in particular was perfect at portraying all of Superman's strength, especially his compassion. All of the other super beings did get their time to shine. You'll get that if you've seen the film. Now, some did get a little more time than others, but I don't really count that against the film. I'm not sure why, but recently, people expect almost every character in every film to have their entire backstory, motivation, and arc explained. This is exceptionally true for comic book films. But again, I don't think it's necessary, especially when the characters are given enough personality to be memorable. And every character in this film was memorable. The engineer was intimidating, impressive, yet impatient. Ultraman was a perfect physical match for Superman. Mr. Terrific was cool and calculated without coming across as inhuman. Hawkgirl was both brutal and nonchalant. Guy Gardner was a total douche but overall likable. And Jimmy was overall likable but sometimes a bit douchey. And Eve? Again, I'm going to save Eve until the end. But enough about the side characters. Let's get on to the big dogs. And let's start with Lois. Rachel Brosnahan, as expected, was the perfect casting choice for Lois Lane. She brings the same go-getting, no-nonsense journalist that'll do anything to get the story attitude. And I enjoyed her arc in the film, going from a closed-off skeptic to someone willing to let their walls down and trust the right people. Nicholas Hoult is also amazing as Lex Luthor. He so easily captures Lex's megalomania and pure hatred for Superman, and he's having so much fun doing it. Lex does truly terrible and horrific things in this film, all while having this detached glee about him. It honestly gives me similar vibes to him in The Great. Also, I love how Lex's one true motivation is his contempt for the Kryptonian. which comes from his refusal to accept that someone so powerful, so influential, so inspirational, who isn't even technically human, would be so selfless. But he is. Superman is supremely selfless in this film. He's also kind and compassionate and caring and endlessly optimistic, and kind of a big dork. He truly believes in the good in everyone, and that anyone can change, even people like Lex. But he's not perfect. He makes mistakes, he gets angry or scared, and has doubts. But he still gets up and he tries his best at doing what he thinks is right. He goes above and beyond, making sure he saves as many lives as possible, from the most colossal kaiju to the smallest squirrel. Because all this Superman wants is to do good and prevent as much suffering as possible. And David Corenswet effortlessly embodies all of this, all while bringing such humanity to the character. He is even given a remarkably compelling arc. He starts the film under intense public scrutiny. Immediately after losing his first battle, it's clear that his confidence is rocked. And when everyone, even Lois, appears to be questioning his intentions, that confidence is rocked even more. And it's not until Clark realizes that the only thing that matters is that he keeps trying to help people does he regain his confidence. In my opinion, it's one of the most human performances we've seen from a superhero that can do so much. But with everything Superman can do, even he knows he can't do it alone. So he has to rely on others. Which leads perfectly into the film's themes, like the power of hope and the strength it takes to place that hope in others. I've seen people critique this film because Superman needs help too often, but that is the point. Everyone, everywhere, even Superman at some point needs some help. And don't worry, Superman also helps a lot of other people too. But Superman is only able to come out on top because he relies on other heroes to fight the battles he can. And he relies on Lois to do the investigative journalism he can. Lois then relies on Jimmy for the source she doesn't have, and Jimmy in turn relies on said source for the information he needs. Speaking of, I think we waited long enough. Let's talk about the actual star of the film, Eve Tessmacher. Oh, and spoiler warning from here on out. Remember how I said that I have one more critique? Well, initially after leaving the theater, I thought it was kind of off that Lex had a girlfriend. In most of the media I've seen, he rarely has any sort of romantic partner. I mean, clearly, Lex fucks. Like, clearly. But it just feels strange to see him with an actual girlfriend, let alone one that is so pivotal in taking Lex down. But while writing this script, I kept thinking about it. Why would this seemingly vain, superficial, and overall unserious person be the key to stopping the villain? Because it's the whole point behind the film. It doesn't matter where you come from, or how many mistakes you made, or how unserious you may appear. As long as you try to do what's right, you can be a hero. Because all any of us can do is keep trying to do good, and hope that others will see the good being done and want to join in. In this time of global economic turmoil, a collapsing climate, authoritarianism and fascism back on the rise, and more division than ever, films like Superman are exactly what we need. While there may not be billionaires using monkeys as online hate bots, there are definitely rich and powerful people spreading fear, division, and hate simply to gain more wealth and power. And this film shows us how to fight back. Just be like Superman. No matter how scared or angry or confused you may be, as long as you try your best at doing good and hope others will do the same, we can change the world. Because in the end, 2025 Superman, despite its imperfections, is more than just a beautiful, fun, thrilling, and heartwarming film. It is a piece of art that can hopefully inspire people to be a bit kinder, a bit more caring, and way more hopeful. In a world where empathy is seen as a weakness, it's nice to have a reminder of how it's actually our greatest strength. Oh, and it's easily an S tier film. Anyway, those are my thoughts on 2025 Superman. Let me know your thoughts on the film and who's your favorite Superman, live action or animated, in the comment section down below, as well as your thoughts on my art or what other films you'd like me to review. Thanks everyone. Remember to hit that like button, and I hope you're having a super day.